Good morning, everyone. This is Renee Quintana, and I am bringing you a new guest today. And our guest today is Christina Bollacker. And I am just so intrigued to learn more about you and what systems you have in place and what you have going on in the real estate world. You and I met probably about 2 months ago, and we've kind of been having a conversation here and there about what we are trying to do individually inside of real estate. And, it just really blows me away, your story and, why you do what you do. And I just wanted to bring you on and highlight you today and see if we can connect you with some other people that are interested in doing some of the things that you've been doing. So could you start, Christina, just by explaining or giving us kind of a overview of who you are and what got you into real estate?
Yeah, so the basics, well, first of all, thanks so much. I really appreciate this time. And I am a mom of 8. So my husband and I have been foster parents for 18 years. We've had over 33 kiddos. Most of them have gone home over the years, but we were able to keep 6 and we've adopted them. A lot of them have special needs. All of them have special needs. And then we have 2 additional, 2 biological. So that equals 8 kids. And in order to be able to have their needs met, I've had to design our life around being able to be home, right? We can't just throw the kids in daycare because most likely they will get kicked out of daycare because of their special needs and behavioral struggles. And so that really brought us to the point where we're like, okay, we need to make some money. And how do we do that when 9 to 5 doesn't work? Corporate America doesn't work. And we can't each work, 50, 60 hours a week, and raise these kids. And we've been called to this mission of foster care and adoption. And so really we just set out trying to figure out how we can earn some money and not always be trading our hours for dollars. And first of all, we realized we need to work for ourselves because no one could give us the flexibility and hours that we needed. And if I needed to take someone to therapy and I needed coverage at home, not very many people are willing to babysit 7 kids. And so my husband needed to be able to be close to home and flexible in his hours as well. So we became, small business owners. And then that led to, okay, we got to stop trading our hours for dollars. Now we need to get some passive income coming in. Like, what can we do? And there's a journey all in that. And every time it just kept leading us back to real estate. And really, in the beginning, it was the rental real estate. And so we started accumulating rentals. And then 2008 happened and, our renters were like, they couldn't pay. They were moving out. We were stuck with properties that we couldn't refinance because we didn't have a W-2 income anymore. And that just brought us to the point where we're like, oh my goodness, we have all these properties and all these young kids, and our life's turned upside down. So we decided from that point out, we were going to become debt free, like no mortgage, no rental property, no mortgage on the rental properties, no consumer debt, anything. And that is how we've decided that how we can continue to provide for our family and to have less stress and focus on the things we want to focus on. Is we didn't have to be working to pay for the interest, payments on all of this stuff. And so that took us a course of 10 years using, the IRS little loophole, not really a loophole, but it's a personal residence exemption that allows you to live in a property personally for 2 years, 2 of 5 years, and then you can sell it and just pretty much roll that equity in. You can take it out and, have it tax-free, or you can roll it into the next property with no tax, no capital gains. So that's what we did for the next 10 years to get debt-free, living on, pretty much just a very, very modest income. And so that led us to the point of, okay, that's awesome. Now we're debt-free, but if we can't continue to buy real estate to add to our portfolio to have more passive income, like, now what? And so then that brought me to the point of, okay, I need to find out how I can go buy property for cheap. Well, I'm in the Denver area, and at that point, you couldn't find a house under 400,000 that wasn't a shack. And so anyway, that made me kind of go outside of my state and go looking for properties in different markets. And then that led me to finding tax deed properties and learning how to purchase those. And I bought a coaching package and worked one-on-one with someone in person and over Zoom for several weeks and learned exactly how they were doing it. And they had purchased 300 properties in Alabama. And they were tax deed properties. They were buying these properties for under $10,000, and a lot of them far less than that. And so I just wanted to have a clear cut, like step 1, step 2, step 3. I wanted to be able to have someone practically give me, their machine, and I could get it going and drop my properties in, and then, spits out, cash on the other end. And so that is what we've done. And we're in the process of kind of working through those. I bought 20 properties last year through in Alabama through their tax deed process. And we're converting those to rentals and waiting out the redemption period. A lot of them I got under $10,000. I have one that I bought for $3,500, and it's worth, the assessed value is $64,000 on it. So anyways, I'm still new at this. I'm not sure how it's all going to pan out, but this is just like an instance of like my journey. And I'm now looking to see, okay, I have this long-term income, but I also need to be able to feed that with short-term, like a quicker cash conversion cycle. And so now that has brought me to like transactional funding. Okay, so if I can loan someone $10,000 for an earnest money deposit and can get $6,000 back in a matter of 30 days, or if they need to do a double close and they need $100,000 for a matter of minutes, and I can get $10,000 for that. That is a quick cash conversion cycle that I can now get that income to be able to feed the long-term projects that I have that are the tax deed properties. So that's kind of where I am right now.
That is excellent. And I think that, for some of our listeners that may not know exactly what a tax deed property is, or, what exactly that is that you own, can you explain or break that down for, the 101 education on that?
Yeah. So essentially, when we all, as homeowners, wherever you live in the US, you have to pay property taxes, and that pays for schools, roads, libraries, police, fire, those kind of things. And that is a percentage of assessed value of your property, and plus a mill levy and all that extra, really nitty gritty stuff. But essentially, you have to, even if you have a paid off house, you still have to pay your property taxes. Those are due as the privilege of a property owner, being a property owner. And when you don't pay those taxes, most municipalities will give you 12 months, and they'll give you a late fee and whatnot, penalty perhaps. And then after that 1-year mark, then they will, depending on if they're a tax lien state or a tax deed state or a hybrid, there's a lot of nuances, but I'm just going to talk in general terms. They will go ahead and put a lien on your property, a tax lien, and then they will go ahead and auction off that tax lien at their annual auction. And then an investor will come and bid on that tax lien and purchase it for the back taxes owed, penalties and interest. And then they will get a set percentage rate based upon that state's statutory rules in regards to the tax lien. And so it's all the rates, all the rules are set by government regulation. And yes, they do change often, or they do change, but not often, because they have to change the laws, right? And I'm just talking in general terms. There's a lot of nuances, but essentially that is how investors can purchase tax lien certificates or tax deeds. It's essentially when a homeowner does not pay and does not pay for a considerable amount of time. And each state has its own redemption period, which means if the tax lien or deed sells to the investor, the delinquent homeowner still has time to pay up what is due, back taxes, penalties, and interest, plus the investor's interest. And then they can get the house back in clear in their name. And if they do not by the redemption period, then if it's a tax lien state, then or a deed state, then you can go through the legal channels and courts to get that title cleared, and then get a I don't know if it's a special warranty deed or it depends on each municipality how they give that deed back to you. But that's in a nutshell.
Interesting. So I also learned a little bit more about foreclosures earlier this week, and that process definitely seems similar, as the tax lien process. I don't know. Do you know anything about foreclosure process also?
Well, the foreclosure process is started by the mortgage company. So usually when someone is behind in taxes, well, most of the time, when you have a mortgage, you're having these things escrowed. And so you're having insurance and you're having property taxes escrowed, because the mortgage company wants to make sure those things are paid because they have a vested interest in this asset. And so if a homeowner somehow doesn't escrow, but they have a mortgage, and then the mortgage company will get contacted that these taxes are owing, and then the mortgage company will usually come in and pay that because they don't want to lose their asset, right? Because that's what's securing their loan. But a lot of times it's these properties that don't have mortgages that don't get the property taxes don't get paid, and they then get sold off, right? Also, if there happens to be a mortgage and the mortgage or the bank, for whatever reason, it slips through the crack and they don't respond to the notice and they don't pay and redeem, then they will lose their position and they will lose that asset, because a mortgage gets wiped out. It is the tax lien certificate is superior to the mortgage, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
okay.
It gets wiped along with federal, if there's federal taxes and other encumbrances, the feds get 120 days to respond to the notice. And if they do not, then that also gets wiped. So there's a big difference, because foreclosure, you still have to pay, the bank is still wanting to get a portion of, their loan repaid to them. So it's a skinnier profit or a skinnier margin when you're dealing with foreclosures than with tax deeds, because most of the liens get wiped.
So is it true? I would imagine then that, you mentioned that you bought a lot of properties in Alabama. So the person that was teaching you and everything, they lived in Alabama as well, or at least their market was in Alabama, right?
They don't live in Alabama. They do this. They live in a neighboring state. They live in Georgia. And so they'll go to Alabama once a month or once a quarter. But they're doing this for all intents and purposes, like virtually. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's probably good to know, and you've mentioned it a few times too, is that, depending on if it's a tax, I'm writing notes because all of this is good stuff, but depending on if it was a tax or a deed state, tax
lien
deed or lien state, yeah, then you would have to learn what those processes are based on that state. So just because you know how to deal with one state doesn't necessarily mean that you know the law in every state, I'm guessing.
No, it absolutely means you don't know the law in every state. And remember, it's not just states, but it's the actual counties. So here you have 50 states, but you actually have 31 100 and some counties within those 50 states, and each county within each state acts differently, can act differently.
Okay. That's really great to know. And I think very important. You can't just, jump into the business and not really know what you're doing based on that county. I think that would be a train wreck.
That, and so knowing the laws and regulations and doing your due diligence, because you need to know if you're buying a piece of swampland. You need to know if you're buying a property that's looks like it's there on Google, but it's actually been scraped by the county. It's been demolished and taken down and hauled out. Right, because there's a lot of pitfalls, but with good research and knowing what that research is, and that's what I paid for the mentoring, is to know how to do the research, because that's key.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a follow-up question too, you had mentioned that the owner has a redemption period, and that if they do come around and pay the taxes that are owed, then the deal wouldn't go through on your side. But do you have skin in the game at that point? Like, have you already made a deposit, or do you have to pay for the whole property, or what are the risks when that comes around?
Okay, so let me clarify. The redemption, okay, so an investor purchases either tax lien certificate or the tax deed, right? And the delinquent owner has a redemptive right. But in a tax deed situation, the tax deed, the one who purchases the tax deed is an owner. They have ownership interest, but the delinquent tax, or the delinquent owner, still has a redemptive right. And so I've already, say I buy a tax deed property, I pay my money to the county sends me the tax deed, right, that shows, hey, I bought it for X amount, and now I'm now responsible for paying the subsequent taxes on the property. The delinquent owner has 3 years. That's what it is in Alabama. So I can, as the investor, I continue to pay the taxes on, a year after I bought it, the second year after I bought it, the third year after I bought it, and 3 years in one day. If they have not gone to, or at this point, there are legal notices that have been sent to them from my attorney, right? So if they have not contacted my attorney, if they have not gotten the redemption balance, which is what I pay, the acquisition costs that I paid, plus the state statute percentage per diem, right? And any other improvements allowable by the statute. So if I have to put a new roof on it because it's caving in, or if I have to do X, Y, and Z in order to get it up to a rentable state, because in Alabama you can rent it and get the cash flow during the redemption period. If I have to do some things to get the property up to a rentable state, then the delinquent owner, they can't come back and just say, oh my gosh, my house now looks beautiful with a new roof and it's completely, redone inside, and there's a renter, and, it looks fantastic, and now I want it back. Give it to me for just the back taxes. No, they have to pay me back all of my rehab costs. They have to pay me back my acquisition costs, and they have to pay me interest on all of that at 12% per annum.
Got it. That makes perfect sense.
Legal fees.
Right. And then you are also cash flowing because you have a renter in there. And so you're making, that profit over the 3-year period, if
Correct.
they haven't redeemed. Okay.
Correct. So most generally, these are the numbers that I'm seeing, that I'm buying the properties for $10,000. I'm putting $20,000 in them. And so that brings me to a $30,000 all in. And then I'm renting them for $1,000 a month times 36 months here or there. That's, 36,000, that's gross. Okay. Of course, you're going to have your expenses out of that, right? Property taxes, insurance, all that kind of stuff, property management fee. But the whole goal is to be flush by the end of the 3-year redemption period, to be flush and have all your expenses paid back. And then at that point, you still have that forced appreciation because you bought it for 10, right? You've just gotten paid back your 20. and now it's worth 80 after the 3 years. And now, you bought it for 10, so that's a 70,000 difference. And so that's kind of the plan.
Well, and that verifies too, because the whole time you're talking about the 20 properties that you purchased last year, I think in Alabama, and you're saying that you guys are debt free. I mean, that's amazing to me. So congratulations for that, because with a family of 10, and you're debt free, and you own all of this real estate, I know that so many people are like, wow, I really want to be like Christina. Because it just, I mean, it's something that people strive for, right? And I think that one of the great things about real estate is that there are so many niches that you can find ways to make money inside of real estate, and that's half of the reason why I do this podcast, this interview, is to help people understand what all of those ways are. And my biggest burning question for you is, how in the world do you have all of these things going on, including your family? How do you get all of that to run smoothly? Because I know that there's moms out here watching that have 1 or 2 kids that feel like, it's chaos. And right now I get your full undivided attention. And, how do you do this?
That is a great question. And it starts from, many years ago when the kids are small, getting them into a system, and having clear expectations and being very consistent in holding them accountable to be decent humans, right? Like, you see moms on the phone, you see mom is in a meeting. What does that mean to you in regards to what your voice level should be? Like, I'm always asking them to do that introspection and to be thinking about how they're translating on others. We go to the pool in our community, and as soon as we walk in, I have a huddle up and I say, okay, so who knows the rules of the pool? And the kids will answer. And then I'll say, what do you notice right now? Who do you notice is here? And they're like, oh, that lady, that guy. So what are they doing? Oh, she's reading and he's, talking on the phone. I said, okay, so what does that mean for you? Well, that means that we need to be quiet. Yes, right. And so I'm just constantly reminding them before we go into situations, what the expectations are and why, and how that they can have the best chance for success. And then I'll also say, I'll give you, we have a signal system at home. It's like, I will, raise one finger, and that tells them, like, okay, this is a warning. I'm kind of doing something out of line, not in alignment with expectations. Number 2 means I'm still doing it. I haven't corrected myself, and I'm about to get kind of snagged. And so number 3 is, okay, stop. You need to go out of the scenario. You need to go get, recollected, and I don't even have to holler at them, and we can do this in public, this system. But it's all about getting systems in place. Anyone knows who, like McDonald's, right? It's a turnkey endeavor, and they set it up so literally teenagers can run the restaurant, right? It doesn't take a brain surgeon, but you have to have systems in processes in place to manage people, and it's no different.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So
I'm not on social media too. Like, I do my business stuff on YouTube, but I'm not on Facebook. Like, personally, I'm not on Instagram. I'm not watching YouTube for entertainment. Like, I choose not to spend my time, Pinterest, whatever. And so therefore I have time to do the things that matter to me.
And do you feel like you have a pretty good life work balance? I mean, obviously you've created this life for yourself so that you can have that time. I think you mentioned that at the very beginning, is that it was key for you to figure out how to have, consistent passive income coming in so that you could still tend to all of your kids and get work done and do all of these things at the same time. Do you feel like you have I mean, it seems like you've mastered it to me, but what is your rating on that?
No, I have not mastered it. I was raised, my dad and my stepdad are both what I think society would call like workaholics, and they got a lot of value from, their work. And they were both self-employed. And so I saw that was modeled to me. And so I do have a tendency to love to work and love to learn. And so I do struggle with that work-life balance. And especially when you're starting things up new, like there's no way that your life can be in balance when you're starting up a new endeavor. It's going to be out of balance for a while, just like when you have a new baby. Like there's just things are out of balance for a while. And it's just recognizing that this is a small period of time and we're doing this to get X result. And this is going to get us to our goal. And then we're going to come back to the table and figure out, okay, now we're more on a maintenance scenario. And then, then you can kind of figure out how that life works. But every season of life has its own challenges. And every time you think you've kind of mastered, there's something new that comes in. And so I don't know if I necessarily am on board with a work-life balance or think that's even possible, because I think life is so fluid that there's always something that's coming in out of balance. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like that's what shows that you're growing. If you don't have other things coming into your life to kind of get you off kilter, then it just means that you're stagnant and nothing's happening, right?
That's true. And I do have to be very intentional about, okay, I'm going to work for X amount of minutes. And then it's like a test at school. When the timer goes off, pencils down, books shut. And that just forces me to be really focused. And then I can just get myself out the hook and say, okay, time is done. Now it's time. The kids are home. It's time to do dinner. And I'm doing dinner. I cook, we don't do processed foods and stuff like that because of our kids' special needs and their behavior stuff. So I'm making fresh meals every day. And I don't have an assistant. I don't have nannies. I wish I did, like a household manager. Like that is one of my goals. Like I would love to have a housekeeper, a cook.
There you go.
A couple nannies, a couple tutors. That would be awesome, but that's not my life. And so I have to just squeeze things in the nooks and crannies of what's available during the day.
Yeah. Well, and that's not your life right this moment. Who knows what might happen, right? So I wanted you to use a couple minutes to talk about the book that you wrote, because I think it would be a good tool or a handbook, if you want to explain what it is and give us a little information about that too.
Sure. Well, the one that I have that is published and out right now is my experience in Alabama, and literally the nuts and bolts, nitty gritty of how I'm doing it. That's the technical piece. It's a technical book. It is definitely going to be read more like a textbook, and not going to be filled with stories and heartfelt, warm, fuzzy feelings. It is definitely more of the tactical. And I also have this other book that is more or less a prequel. It's the what the heck is are tax liens and deeds, and are they even something I should be interested in, or do they align with my goals? And that's the prequel book, and that's the one that I'm getting reviewed right now, and then going to get the edits done, and then hopefully get that thing published out. It's been a labor of love.
I'm sure it seems like every book is. Where can people find your book? The one that's published?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon, and I just realized I just put my first name as my title. And so Christina Bollacker is how I'm on Facebook Messenger, YouTube, Amazon. So you can find me there. I also have, I think I have like 215 videos right now of me starting my tax deed journey from 0 properties to 18 months later, which is now having the properties that I have. And I bought 20, but 3 have redeemed. And so I'm down to 17. And so you can kind of see in real life, like how I'm going through that process. And it's hard because when you go and you look into these different courses and you see their case studies and it's 3 minutes of someone just telling you all the highlights and the butterflies and the rainbows of things. And then you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And you get in and you're like, you hit the bumps and bruises and you get some scrapes and scabs. And you're like, this is like, I either got scammed or I'm doing it wrong or whatever. No, it's just, you didn't get the full picture. And that's the whole purpose of my YouTube channel, is to document my process so that people can actually see like how it really is before they get in, to decide if they're willing to take the jump.
Yeah, well, good for you for documenting all of that, because I know when you start out your real estate career, it's a little, it can be a little rocky, you know, and it can be like you just said, am I doing the right thing? And to document that, it really gives credibility to what you've done and to other people who are watching that, to see, you know, that it wasn't just something that you learned overnight, for sure. So, well, Christina, thank you so much for being on today. I am really excited to share your story and, you know, share information about what you do. And I will be posting some information about your YouTube channel when I post this video, so people can connect with you there as well. So thank you so much for your time. I know that you are a busy woman, so I appreciate you.
Thanks, Renee. I appreciate you having me on today.
No problem.